Welcome back to Storytime ASMR with me, Neil Winters. This is episode 4. This will be the second part of my football story. I'm not sure how soon I'll be releasing another personal story because I'm working on a long one right now, but I do think I'll release some additional stuff, more in terms of nonfiction or reading from the things from the public domain, until I'm able to write my next one. But I want to keep practicing talking because I enjoy it. And so anyway, let's begin. I've got a few votes yes and a few votes no on the ASMR stuff, the boring breathing stuff. I'm going to do a shortened version of it right now. It'll probably last about 3 minutes, so if you want to fast forward, you're welcome to. So here we go. Welcome. This is your time to relax. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Feel the weight of the day melt away as you settle into stillness. Let's bring awareness to your body, starting with your shoulders. Allow them to loosen, drop. Release any tension. Now focus on your jaw. Soften it. Unclench. Now let it rest. Let the sound gently surround you, like waves lapping against the shore. Imagine a gentle breeze, cool and comforting, brushing past your skin. All worries fade. Nothing to think about, nothing to do, only this moment. Each breath carries you deeper into tranquility. The rise and fall of your chest, steady, calm. Every inhale fills you with warmth. Every exhale releases what no longer serves you. You are safe. You are supported. You are enough. Let these words settle into your heart. Feel the quiet presence of peace wrapping around you. Stay here as long as you like. Whenever you're ready, gently bring awareness back to the present. Know that this calm remains with you, ready whenever you need it. You are deeply relaxed. You are at peace. Okay. Now back to the story. Last time we left off with my talking about my football experience and getting on the team. This time we're going to talk about playing on the team, players and some experiences I had. This will be the second of 2 parts, so I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, let me know and I'll try and do something else. We had 2 great running backs, number 32 and number 22, both in 7th grade, plus a 3rd running back in 6th grade who would substitute. During the season, we would play all 3 of the running backs and use them to bring in plays from the sideline. We'd run a play, get in the huddle, and shortly after, one of the running backs would show up with the play and tell one of the other running backs to head for the sideline. Once I knew the play, I'd communicate it to the huddle and tell them what number the hike would come on, and we'd break the huddle. When I say what number, I mean I'd say down, set, hut 1, hut 2, hut 3. We'd hike it on set, hut 1, hut 2, or hut 3. That was about the extent of our trickery on the hiking. We didn't have audibles or anything fancy like Peyton Manning's Omaha, or Blue 42, as I always said when I was playing quarterback before my football career began. Our practices took place on the same baseball field where tryouts were held. It was a municipal ball field that was used for multiple different things. When I played Little League Baseball, I practiced there as well. It had a large outfield and was close enough to our house that my brother and I were able to ride our bikes to practice, decked out in our football pads. One of our teammates, whose dad was a dentist, rode his four-wheeler from their home on the other side of the ballpark to practice. My brother and I were jealous. He was a good kid and was the best player on the team. His number was 32, and he was the starting running back. He actually ended up passing away about 3 weeks before we graduated from high school. The second best running back on our team was number 22 and was the halfback. Between him and number 32, my friend who made weight, and the third running back, we had a great backfield. After about a month of practices, our first Saturday game was arriving. Multiple teams practiced on the same field at the same time, so we were always aware of our opponents. We never paid attention to their plays because we were so busy with our own practice. But the practice before our first game, we were finishing up and we heard our next day's opponent huddle up and do a very loud cheer. They were the Eagles. Their cheer, "Beat the 49ers!" They had to walk by us on their way off the field, so all of my teammates were sure to yell at the Eagles things like, "Yeah, you wish," "Yeah, right, we'll see tomorrow." That cheer got in my head and made me nervous. The day of the game arrived. After arriving early and doing pre-game warm-ups, our team gathered together in a huddle. The coach didn't come across as very religious, but he did want us to pray before the game began. We had kids from multiple Christian religions, so I was curious as to what prayers from other religions would sound like as we got huddled before all of our games. I think I prayed once. I'm sure that the player who gave the Catholic prayer and the Catholic prayer itself was interesting, as that was the only other religion I knew about at the time. After the prayer, 2 captains and I met with the coach to discuss our strategy on the kickoff. He told us that if we won the coin toss, to receive the kickoff. He didn't believe in delaying kickoff reception until the second half like Lavelle Edwards did at the time with BYU. He wanted the football in our hands to begin the game and to set the tone for the game. We were the visitors, so we called the coin toss. "Tails," we said. The referee flipped the coin, and it came up tails. The referee said, "Kick or receive?" Receive was our response. Then the other team chose which direction they wanted to go, and it was time for the game to begin. We didn't play on a full 100-yard field like the high school, college, and professional teams do. Our field was only 80 yards. Makes sense. We were young, between 11 and 12, and a long field for that age would have been ridiculous. The Eagles kicked, and we received it. Our returner ran at maybe 10 or 15 yards, and it was time for the offense to take the field, with me as the starting quarterback. I remember obsessing about what I would look like on the field and what people would think while watching me play. I was super afraid of messing up and blowing our first game. I didn't feel very confident and felt like I was undeserving of the position. In other words, imposter syndrome. We ran onto the field with the first play in my head. 32 dive was the call. The play we had practiced over and over and over again. I told the huddle that the snap would be on 1. I walked up to the center, our 2 running backs lined up behind me, ready for the first play. I placed my hand on the center's butt. "Down! Set! Hut 1!" The center hiked the ball into my hands, just like we practiced. I turned to the left and faked the handoff as the running back ran past me, just like we'd practiced. I pulled the ball into my hands, turned around with my back facing the line, and tried to hand it off to the other running back on the right. I choked. As I held the ball out to the running back, it fell from my hands to the ground. A fumble! The Eagles recovered the ball. I was embarrassed and disappointed in myself as I ran off the field. But our coach was great. He pulled me aside and calmly reminded me that we had practiced and practiced these plays, and I just needed to relax and let my muscle memory take over. That inspired a wave of confidence, and I felt like I could succeed at being quarterback despite my best efforts to fail on the first play. As I played the rest of the game, I did much better. I felt a renewed sense of confidence when I handed the ball off to my running backs, thinking, I have practiced this for the past month and know how to do it. We scored 1 or 2 touchdowns. Because of our age, we didn't really have a kicking game, so each touchdown was followed by a 2-point conversion attempt. And there wasn't such a thing as kicking a field goal. Other than my first blunder and the confidence I gained from figuring out that I really could play the position I had trained for, the game wasn't terribly memorable. We lost and we were angry about it, but we came away as a team with the confidence that we could play up to our coach's expectations. There were 5 teams in our league: the Price 49ers, the Price Bears, and the Price Eagles. Then we also had the Helper Steelers and the East Carbon Vikings. Games were played in Price, Utah, Helper, Utah, and East Carbon, Utah. The teams faced each other twice throughout the season, once in the first half of the season and once in the second half. We did fairly well during the first half of the season. My educated guess is that after we lost to the Eagles, we lost 1 or 2 more games, but succeeded more than we failed. One of the more memorable games took place about 3 or 4 games into the season. The age group of all of the teams was middle school or 6th and 7th grades. In our school system, we went to elementary school from kindergarten to 5th grade, then middle school for 6th and 7th grade, junior high for 8th and 9th grade, then high school for our sophomore to senior years. We got to have a game scheduled during one of our school days while I was in middle school. As part of that, we all wanted to wear our jerseys to school for team pride. The coaches disagreed with that thought and told us that if we wore our jerseys to school, then we were dorks. What does a dork do, the coaches asked? First of all, they fart in the bathtub and try to smell the bubbles. Second of all, they wear their jerseys to school. We didn't wear our jerseys. Part of the fun of being on a team and in the same school was that we all sat at the same lunch table because we were getting close as teammates. It was with a lot of pride that we sat together the day of the game, plotting our impending victory and dreaming about showing off for all of the girls. The other great part about playing a game during the school day is that as a player, I got to leave class early to warm up for the game. The class that I got to exit early? Social Studies. My teacher, Mrs. Young, was annoyed, but didn't have much of a choice but to let me go. Thus began the eternal struggle between teachers and student athletes. I got to feel the sense of entitlement that high school athletes feel when they get to miss school for their sports. We won that day's game, but I unfortunately didn't get to kiss a girl at the end of it in a hero's embrace. About halfway through the first half of the season, our coaches set the goal of beating the Helper Steelers. They were the best team in our league, and our coaches believed that if we implemented a few key plays and defensive strategies, we could beat the Steelers in the last game of the year. The first thing we worked on was a pass to one of our best receivers. It was called the Outwood Down and Out. For the play, our player named Outwood ran down the field from the line of scrimmage about 10 yards, stopped, and turned toward the outside line. I then threw him the ball, usually unsuccessfully. The second play was an end around, which ultimately morphed into a full double reverse. The end around was a play where I, as a quarterback, would take the snap, run to the left or right side of the line, and the offensive end from the same side I was running towards would run back to me and take a handoff, then run around the other side of the line. We saw quite a bit of success from the play, except for one specific time that I can remember. We were playing East Carbon at the Helper Field, and my brother was playing the offensive end. We snapped the ball, and I ran to the right. My brother came from the right side of the line to take the handoff. He took the handoff and ran towards the left side of the line. In the meantime, he was being pursued by a quick, larger defensive end. After I handed the ball off to my brother, it was my job to block the defensive end. I handed the ball off, saw the end running after him, and immediately stopped to block him. For some reason in my mind, even if I stopped, it was the defensive end's job to run into me and accept the block. The problem is that memo never reached him because as he ran at me, he saw me stopped and looked at me like I was crazy. He just ran around me after my brother. Had I actually actively blocked, my brother would have scored a touchdown. Instead, he got caught from behind and tackled. My brother and I still shake our heads at that play to this day. The double reverse was an end around on steroids. I would run to one of the sides of the line while the end from that side ran towards me. I then handed the ball off to the end who was acting like he was going to run around the other side of the line when he would suddenly hand it off to a third player, usually a running back, coming the opposite way. When we ran that play, the defensive ends would pursue the player taking the handoff from me, and then the other player would run right by them. Our coaches wanted us to learn this play because it was Helper's premier play. They wanted our defense to understand how to defend it and stop it in its tracks. To teach our defense how to defend the play, our offense ran it all the time in practice. As we ran it more and more on offense, we got better and better at it, and our defense got better and better at defending it. We finally got to the point where we were expert at the play, or at least as expert as a group of 11 and 12-year-olds can be. After we learned the play, we used it in every game we played. So we had two excellent running backs who were really natural athletes. In no way would I describe myself as a natural athlete. An excellent line, an excellent defense, and some great running plays to run. I unfortunately don't remember all of our games, but I do remember some plays and other events that took place throughout the season. During the time I was playing football, I also played the clarinet in my middle school band. One day, about halfway through the season, my band teacher notified my parents that I was failing band because I didn't practice my instrument at home. When he found out, my dad was livid. My football equipment was sitting at the top of the stairs, waiting to be taken downstairs to my room. He looked at me. He looked at the equipment. Then he said that if I didn't start practicing and improve my grade in band, he would pull me from football and I would be done for the season. The thought of that consequence being unfair didn't occur to me. What did occur to me, and what was one of the most important lessons I learned from that whole football experience, was the feeling that I might let down my teammates. I'm happy to report that I did practice my clarinet and I did finish out the season. Football is the ultimate team sport because no one player can do everything and all players must work together like cogs in a machine. Having said that, our three running backs and our fullback were very important to our team's success. When we were playing the Bears for the second time in East Carbon, we were killing them. The biggest reason for our lead was the double reverse. They couldn't defend it and we scored nearly every time we ran the play. So their coaches decided to run the double reverse against us, thinking that they could beat us at our own game. They were wrong. Their quarterback took the snap and ran to his right. He handed the ball off to the right tight end and kept running. The tight end ran about 2 steps and handed it to the left end. The left end probably thought he was home free as he ran parallel to the line of scrimmage. Then he turned left to run downfield and was immediately met by our defensive end and was tackled. Thus, the Bears and other teams learned that they could not beat us trying to run the double reverse. Our defensive ends knew how to stay home and stop that play cold. I think the Bears were not happy with us in that game. On one play, I took the snap and threw a pass. I saw the receiver run the route, stop, then turn to his right to catch the pass. I threw it, saw him catch it, and then was unexpectedly tackled by one of their biggest defensive linemen from my left. I fell to the ground and thought, this is awesome. I thought it was awesome to be able to take a hard hit and get up and walk away from it. But looking back on that hit, I think it was an extremely late hit and a cheap shot that the officials missed because it took place so long after the play had occurred. Not everybody played sports in the way that I thought everybody should. I remember getting called for an intentional grounding one time when I thought I was throwing it to one of our receivers. The moral of that story was that my arm was so weak that I couldn't throw the ball very far when I couldn't put my whole body weight behind the throw. I was also intercepted a lot. Whenever I threw an interception, I was always eager to line up on the intercepting player and give him a strong tackle. That never happened. The idea of laying a powerful football hit on someone was always palpable, but never attainable. Another thing I was asked to learn again and again was not to string out a scramble. I remember being in practice, scrambling with the ball and running towards the sidelines rather than down the field. My coach would always yell from behind me, "God damn it, Winters, don't string it out." I always felt honored that he thought enough of me to think I could do a better job. That may sound weird, but I've always appreciated it when people were hard on me, but not hard to the point of being degrading. And I felt like being yelled at in this manner actually showed me respect. And frankly, I found it a little funny. He was just so frustrated with me, and I probably screwed it up way more often than I got it right. The second half of the season progressed, and we won game after game, all in anticipation of the final game of the season against the Steelers. That game was to be the last game of the night when all of the Little League was playing under the lights at the local high school football field. That game took place on a cold October night. All I could think of during the days preceding the game was how was I supposed to keep my hands and feet warm while in the nearly freezing temperatures. It was a rite of passage to play football in the cold at night in the high school stadium. Having spent plenty of time in the Utah cold, I knew how numb my extremities got and how to best prepare myself against it. I had to wear several layers of warm underwear plus wool socks and thick gloves. The layer of warm underwear was available to me, but with my tight cleats and need to handle the ball, I wasn't sure if the wool socks or gloves would be. With some effort, I squeezed into wool socks. For my hands, my coach recommended jersey gloves. Keep in mind that this was in the late 1980s, so receiver gloves were not really a thing, especially in my small hometown of Price, Utah. Since my coach recommended jersey gloves, we went to the local sporting goods store and asked for jersey gloves. They had no idea what we were talking about. And frankly, I still don't have any idea what we were talking about. But they apparently would have done a good job in keeping my hands warm. The other thing our coaches told us to do to keep our hands warm was to put them down the crotch of our football pants. That worked very well. The night of the game quickly approached. It was on a Thursday, so we had to spend a day in school and get through our classes. The only class I remember from that day was physical ed. I happened to have that class with one of our two main running backs, number 22. We were in the middle school gym and had just finished our pre-class warm-ups of jumping jacks and stretching. The gym teacher asked number 22 to get something from the side of the gym. Number 22 walked to the side next to a large piece of wood that was leaning against the wall. I don't know what happened, but I heard the wood fall on the ground. I looked over, and our running back was prostrate on the floor, grabbing his leg. "What happened?" was the immediate reaction of all 30 of us in gym class. I looked at the commotion, and my immediate concern was what will happen in our game tonight. Number 22 was in obvious pain and didn't seem as if he would get better anytime soon. An ambulance was called. We waited for 15 minutes or so for the ambulance to arrive. Our gym teacher, Mr. Grundy, knelt next to number 22 to make sure he was comfortable, and the whole time a sense of dread overcame me. Number 22 and number 32 were the two best players on our team, and I knew that our chances of winning went down in direct proportion to the extent of 22's injury. The EMTs arrived and brought in a stretcher. They bent over number 22. "Are you okay?" "I've been better." "Well, let's take a look at you." The EMTs cut number 22 Sweats and exposed a large gash in his calf. That was all the EMTs needed to see before they put a brace on his leg. They put him on a stretcher and wheeled him out of the gym. The rest of the school day came and went in a fog as I became more and more concerned about number 22. Thoughts of "he'll be okay" and "we're screwed" played alternatively in my mind over and over again. When I got home from school and waited for game time to arrive, all I could do was hope that number 22 would be okay. I changed for the game, and my parents took me to the high school field for warm-ups. The immediate question on all of our teammates' minds was, do we have number 22? The question was answered pretty quickly. He drove up to the field and got out of his car in a leg brace and holding crutches under his arms. Then it was time for the game to start. We ran our first play, which was a 32 dive up the center and gained a few yards. We ran another play and only gained a few yards. Then I went to the sideline and the coach said, "Should we run the reverse?" We didn't know because maybe Helper was as good at stopping the reverse as we were, but we decided screw it and ran the play. Down, set, hut 1, hut 2. The ball was snapped to me. I got the ball from the center and ran to my left. I handed the ball off to the tight end. The tight end then gave the ball to number 32, who was quickly around me and on his way to the end zone. We scored on that play, and after the 2-point conversion had an 8-0 lead. This was a good omen, and we were ready to win this game, just as we had planned. It was Helper's turn to have the ball. I was a starting safety, so was in the game for their first possession. It took them 2 plays and they had a first down. Then a few more first downs and a few plays later, they scored. The game was tied 8-8. The game went back and forth like this almost the whole time. We were evenly matched and the scoring was consistent. But our missing running back started catching up with us as we saw Helper take control of the game. One play in particular stands out from that game. A pass play had been called. I took the snap and dropped back, but nobody was open, so I decided to scramble. I wasn't a particularly fast runner and quickly forgot my coach's admonition to not string it out. As I ran to the right sideline, I looked upfield for somewhere to run and get some yardage. I was about to turn when I was suddenly grabbed from the back. I don't remember much about that particular tackle other than seeing the stars in the sky swing violently across my vision, and then I lay flat on my back on the ground. One of the things I always yelled at our defensive players during our games was to give the other team's quarterback nightmares. I am embarrassed to say it, but I had those nightmares after that game. It was much more fun when it was a theoretical wish on someone else, not as much fun when it actually impacted me. That tackle was kind of the beginning of the end. We eventually ended up at our last opportunity to win the game. Helper had just scored a touchdown and we were behind by 8 points, so we had to go down the field before time ran out and score a touchdown of our own. We ran our first 3 downs and were down to 4th and long with less than a minute left in the game. In our practices in the weeks before this final game, we practiced a few trick plays. One was called the Big Tricker and the other one was called the Flood. The Big Tricker was a play where the quarterback and center were lined up on one side of the field, while the rest of the team lined up on the opposite side. We weren't very successful in running this play in practice. The Flood, on the other hand, involved all eligible players lining up as a receiver, thereby leaving the quarterback unprotected in the backfield. For this closing play, we chose to run the Flood. I wish I could say that I was fearless and ready to run that play, but after that tackle earlier in the game, I was petrified of having the same thing happen again, so I asked number 32 to be the quarterback while I ran down the field looking for a pass. The center hiked the ball and we all took off down the field. I sprinted as hard as I could, looking behind me for the ball. It never came. No, It never came. Number 32 threw it to someone else, and it fell incomplete. We had worked our tails off to win this game, but came up short. We did the obligatory high fives and good games with Helper and left to the sideline for our postseason talk with the coaches. Our coaches were congratulatory of our hard work during the season. They complimented each one of us and reminded us of all the work we did. We had put up a good fight and could walk away with our heads held high. I went home that night and just cried. It was heartbreaking to have worked so hard for a shared goal with the entire team, only to have come up short. I didn't blame anybody, but felt like each of us had worked equally hard for the same goal. And just as we succeeded together as a team, we failed together as a team. Later that month, we had an awards banquet for our team. Our coaches gave out the obligatory participation trophies and our team photos. I learned at that ceremony that I had thrown nearly as many interceptions as I had thrown completed passes. Needless to say, this single 3 or 4 month season didn't propel me into a high school football career or anything like that. In fact, it was basically a one and done thing for me. I tried junior high football the next year, but quickly washed out because I wasn't enjoying it and wanted to focus on other things. But for one glorious Little League season, I was king of the world. So that's my football story. Despite losing our last game, the season taught me a few important lessons, the primary one being how to function and succeed or fail as a team. Our team was incredibly close that year, and despite my not being a popular kid, members of that team who were popular maintained their friendship with me throughout the rest of my time in school. The other lesson it taught me was the importance of having and working towards a goal, regardless of the probability of achieving it. The key is to do all in your power to achieve that goal, and if you've done your best, then that is a significant achievement. Well, that's it for the story. Please click that like button and subscribe. Even if it's one or two of you, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you all for joining, and have a great day. And once again, I probably won't be releasing a personal story for a little bit, but I do plan on, I think I'm going to read The Art of War, and maybe give some comments on it. I'm an accountant, so maybe I'll have some insightful business comments. Probably not, but what the heck. All right, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.